Alright. I'm back. Just put the jacket back on. Okay. Woo. All right. No bad. Next, got my water filled up. Let me actually take a sip real quick. Okay. Whew. Next one, eh? Let's. We have to keep going. We gotta keep the ball rolling. Communism will win is our next author. And the last one we had of theirs was 2926. Oh yeah, I think it's like some sort of like a machine that like supposed to like describe pictures. I remember I was a little bit confused about it. It was also very short. And this way we will end in 7 hours off, for fuck's sake. Don't say it like that, please. Okay. With Communism Will Win, we got the end of history. Here we go. Of class of course. Get it again. Personnel with appropriate clearance may view document 3003 NRK attached to access SCP-3003's containment directive and plans for future containment. Samples of -1-2 are kept at Biological Research Area 12 along with several other species from SCP-3003. -3 has agreed to designate one group, has agreed to designate one group, the Earth Contact and Research Committee, at the primary point of contact for the Foundation. -3 has further agreed only to operate portals to SCP-3003 at any of several Foundation-specified sites. In return, the Foundation has designated the SCP-3003 working group as -3's primary point of contact and has agreed to make all efforts necessary to prepare for the introduction of -1. No effort to spread -1 are in fact being made. And then we have here. Oh wait, hold on. Let's take a close look. That looks weird. Interesting. That looks different. -3 must be made to believe that Earth is contaminated by an unknown agent that renders -1 sterile on an Earth native humans incapable of hosting -1 at -1. The introduction of the concept of the seed to -3 is forbidden, either directly or by deceiving a member of -3 under circumstances where the lie would be easily discovered. Mobile Task Force MEC-7 is tasked with incorporation into -3 operated research projects in order to delay research, falsify information about Earth, perform corporate research into -4. Several members are additionally conducting anthropological research into -3. See MTF SAMEC-7 trial for further details. Members of -3 integrated into Foundation-operated research projects must be monitored closely and are not permitted to leave Foundation sites or access unauthorized depictions of human society. The protocols described in preventing the spread of non-anomalous invasive species during interplanetary contact. Third edition must be followed by all parties when -4 is active. Disinformation protocols are set in place to propagate the belief among the scientific community that HIP 56948 has no planetary system. Okay, somebody that I was very concerned about just because I haven't heard from them in a week and they have been in the hospital for a while, haven't responded, has finally responded. Whew, okay, description. SCP-3003 is an Earth-sized planet orbiting HIP form 56948. A G-type main sequence star located 208 light years from Earth. Several anomalies of note are located on SCP-303 and have been given appropriate sub-designations. -1 is a beetle-like organism native to SCP-303 that parasites humans when infected by -2. -2 is an amoeba-like microorganism that infects humans, and -1 affecting the behavior of both. -3 is a technologically advanced civilization on SCP-303 composed of SCP-303's entire native population of 30 billion humans. All are parasitized. Never had to say that before. By -1. -4 is a device that enables the creation of a traversable portal between SCP-303 and Earth. The components of SCP-303 are described in further details below. And there's, oh god, there's so much more. SCP-303. SCP-303 is 3% heavier than Earth, has a rotation period of 30 hours, and orbits HIP 56948 at a distance of AU of 0.9 AU. The range and temperature of the surface is comparable to that of Earth, with the majority of the planet's landmass comprising 40% of the total surface area, supporting extensive habitation by -1-3. Also, the remainder of SCP-303's surface has been altered to support -1-3, either directly or indirectly. SCP-303 has a biosphere that is biochemically compatible with that of Earth, though no known organisms other than humans are native to both planets. Almost all biological processes found on Earth are also found on SCP-303 and vice versa. Genetic analysis of life from SCP-303 suggests the presence of a single ancestor roughly 3.1 billion years ago, with subsequent life, including humans, evolving naturally. This is suspected but not confirmed to be the result of some anomalous property of SCP-303 itself. Most species native to SCP-303 that were not conducive to the spread of -1 were eliminated by -3 within the past several centuries. The risk of introducing invasive species from one environment to the other is addressed by current containment procedures. This has thus far been averted for macroorganisms. The presence of invasive microorganisms has not been discounted. Anomalous phenomena apart from those discussed in these documents have been discovered on SCP-303. -3's ruling committee has denied all knowledge of anomalous phenomena. -1. Ooh. But I don't know why, maybe it's just the angle of this one, but it makes me uncomfortable. Maybe it's just the angle of how this looks. I have a problem with beetles, but like, I don't know. The detailed biological and anatomical information regarding -1, consult document -1-A-AO through D11. -1 referred to as Mars, like Mars, like the planet like Mars, by -3 share several notable characteristics with beetles. A bilateral body plan, a chitinous exoskeleton, 6 legs, wings, and a hardened carapace. Adult specimens range from 3 to 2 centimeters in length. -1 are capable of secreting a protein fiber similar to spider silk, referred to as silkate, form an orifice on the abdomen, as well as create a caustic fluid that coats their bodies as a defensive mechanism. It's like an uncanny valley. That's what it is, right? It's like, and an instance of -1 interacting with Earth's native flora. And also, I don't like how the idea that this will like take over my body is also like not okay for me. Under natural conditions, -1 gather in swarms of about 1,000 individuals that spend the majority of their life airborne, feeding on the seed analogous of various tall sessile organisms. Sexual reproduction is carried out mid-air. The swarm offspring carried in a large pouch-like object by several members until maturity. Jesus, okay, in the wild, -1 lifespan is about 15 That's too long. That's too long. Infection by -2 drastically alters -1's behavior. Affected specimens cease to behave eusocially and develop a 3 centimeter long pointed stinger on their head. After nightfall, -1 will search for humans and using this stinger inject the subject with a powerful paralytic agent that diminishes the strength of muscle contraction. -2 is also injected during this time, with its neurological effects taking place within 7 minutes. Over the course of 3 minutes, the -1 will secrete a caustic fluid from the stinger that allows for the creation of a hole in the host's body slightly larger than the specimen. -1 will then enter this cavity and seal it shut on all sides with silicate. -1 absorbs nutrients and expels waste and -2 via the silicate barrier, which interfaces with the bloodstreams of both the specimen and the host. Lifespan in this state is about 3 years, provided that the host is in good health. Could you guys imagine if this was a stream I got constantly tired? That would be a hole. I would never get the stream done. -1 occupies about 30% of SCP-303's landmass, primarily in a number of reservations established across the planet by -3. These reservations contain artificial ecosystems devoid of -1's natural predators and containing plentiful food as well as other species introduced to keep the ecosystem in balance. -2 is a eukaryotic single-celled organism native to SCP-303. Several nearby evolutionary relatives have been identified. These species parasite -1 and other related organisms, causing behavioral and physiological changes. None exhibit anomalous properties. -2 ancestor was most likely a similar organism. -2 spreads to -1 by physical contact into humans by introducing to the bloodstream. In humans, -2 will colonize the nervous tissue of the frontal, parietal, and temporal lobes, transforming into neuron-like cells that form functional neural pathways in this state. In this state, -2 cells do not reproduce. The primary effects of -2 infections are, and here we have a -2. Lovely to look at. At least, like, unlike the bugs, which is, like, again, as Kasabon said, it's very uncanny valley of a beetle, at least from this angle. This is, like, so small, you wouldn't even see it. Development of the obsession with the well-being and spread of -1 subject infected within -2 will primarily pursue activities that they believe will benefit -1. Other concerns such as morality and self-preservation are only preserved if and when they are functional for this purpose. Pleasurable activities are pursued when the subject cannot identify a course of action that benefit -1. Subject value both the immediate propagation of -1 and the long-term survival of the species. Development of a pleasure response to stimuli pertaining to -1. Infected subjects have responded positively to visual, olfactory, auditory, and tactile stimulation reminiscent of -1 or the gross characteristics of the parasitic form. Classical condition is, to a limited extent, capable of transferring these feelings to other stimuli. Hyper-rational behavior. Infected subjects possess drastically above average reasoning capabilities, which they will use to evaluate all information available to them in order to identify the course of action that most benefits -1. Affected subjects will refuse to consider the value or possibility of not supporting -1. While subjects can be conditioned to engage in irrational behavior in extreme circumstances, rational behavior is always resumed within 2 weeks. Suppression of emotions. While affected subjects are capable of experiencing emotions, these are rarely acted on and are easily discarded in light of new information. Emotional displays are often exaggerated. -2 cannot reproduce within humans, and most cells do not survive longer than 30 days. Full recovery occurs within 2 years of the death of all cells. Regular infusion of -2, or more commonly, the implementation of -1, is necessary for continued presence of -2 within the human body. -2 is not present in wild population of -1. Instead, captive population of -1 are exposed to prior to the introduction to humans. Then we have -3's biology. -3 is composed of genetic humans. Physically, they are indistinguishable from humans. Experimentation has shown that Earth native humans and -3 are capable of producing viable offspring. -3 possesses roughly 35% of the genetic diversity of Earth's native humans. This is attributable to roughly 460 years of systematic selective breeding for several traits that render SCP-303 well suited to hosting -1, large stature, high levels of adipose tissue, reduced pain response, etc., as well as for overall health, freedom from genetically transmitted illnesses and disabilities, and resistance to common infectious diseases. As of 2017, 3rd to 24th, -3's ruling committee has initiated a planet-wide project to introduce artificial genes into -3s over the course of the next 30 years. The stated goals of this project are to reduce resource consumption by 30%, preemptively induce immunity to Earth's native pathogens, and increase -1's hosting per capita tenfold. It is presumed that these changes will constitute -3 as a distinct species. No members of -3 have been identified as a member of SCP-1719-1. -3 technology, including -4. -3's technology, particularly -4, is not fully understood by the Foundation. While this is part due to the advanced nature of most of these technologies, -3 has withheld various scientific and engineering advances as an incentive for the Foundation to make Earth habitable for -1. Full catalogs of -3's advances in medicine, materials science, and manufacturing are accessible in Appendixes 3R, 3S, and 3T, respectively. -3 is capable of harnessing, in one way or another, 1/10 of the energy that falls on it from HIP 56948. Most of this is harvested via wind, solar, and tidal power plants located in SCP-303's desert and oceans. In these situations where this energy is unavailable or inconvenient, it is often supplemented with locally produced geothermal and nuclear fusion power. -3 has developed several variable methods of fusion power, though none are as cost-effective as solar power under optimal conditions. -3 has developed exascale quantum computers that are used to process massive amounts of data to devise and implement public policy. While -3 claims to have developed 2 artificial intelligences, using these computers it does not currently permit their use or creation for reasons that have not been indulged to the Foundation. Extensive questioning on this matter has uniformly been met with hostility. The taboo against artificial intelligence has also prevented widespread automation except in industries where returns are exceptionally high. Additionally, while -3 has the capability to deploy advanced robots to assist in most tasks without violating this taboo, almost none are used. Crops produced by -3 has been extensively genetically engineered for hardiness, disease tolerance, space efficiency, resource efficiency, and nutritional value. To this end, only 13 species are cultivated for food, all being sessile photosynthetic organisms analogous to plants. Various methods of processing and combination are used to create stable food for -3 with properties suited for different situations. Various satellites have been launched by -3 for purposes of research and communication. -3 is capable of but rarely conducts space travel in this area. Its technology does not substantially exceed that available to the Foundation. All other planets orbiting HIP 56948 have been visited by -3 on numerous occasions, with 11 individuals permanently living in an artificial habitat on the 3rd planet from the star. -4. -4 is a facility capable of creating wormholes between an apparatus at its center and any other point in space. -4 occupies 113 kilometers squared of an otherwise unused polar region of SCP-303. Most of this is dedicated to the creation and transport of several forms of exotic matter, as well as creating brief laser pulses in the 10⁻40 watt range in order to stabilize wormholes for longevity. Hey, don't fucking stabilize wormholes. We already had a wormhole SCP just an hour and a half ago. As well as creating brief for longevity and traversability. For reasons that are currently unclear to the Foundation, this has no effect on the targeted location other than the linkage of the 2 locations. Each activation of therefore requires approximately 1 zettajoule, 10⁻21 joules of energy in comparison. Earth's annual energy consumption is roughly 0.5 ZJ, whereas -3 consumes about 833 ZJ yearly. -3 has been using -4 primarily to examine planets they've identified as candidates for expansion, though they have also explored the possibility of using it for resource collection. And the last one, society, which has also some commentators. Oh my god. Full anthropological studies of -3 are currently being conducted. Information in this document is intended to provide an overview of -3's organization. -3's overview. -3 speaks a language identical apart from various differences in vocabulary to Dutch. No other historical language spoken on SCP-303 has an equivalent in Earth's history. No other languages are extant on -3. -3 has one dominant culture, to which all members are inducted with minor variations present between areas of different population density, climate, and industry. Prior to the appearance of parasitic -1 about 500 years ago, -3 was a mundane, mercantile society. Post-exposure, -3 either destroyed or assimilated most of the around 7,000 other cultures that existed at the time. The remainder were wiped out during ecological collapse in 1712, resulting from -3's indiscriminate elimination of keystone species that preyed on -1 amongst other factors. 95% of -3 live in urban areas. These cities average 30 million in population and are generally in locations with mild weather that are not near coastlines, active volcanoes, or active tectonic plate boundaries. The cities built by -3 are largely enclosed with a single, nearly flat surface on which food crops and certain biomaterials are grown. Cities are designed with the intent of maximizing productivity. A secondary concern is the lining of various surfaces with a material that mimics the appearance and texture of -1, which functions as a form of public entertainment. Commentary. Several of my colleagues have been forced to relocate to rural areas within days of stationing inside one of -3 cities. The various corridors and streets of -3 are somewhat narrower than the hallways of an office building on Earth, and contain many more people. Visitors from Earth are at risk of developing claustrophobia and or agoraphobia. Visual markers of one's location are additionally infrequent, as members are generally expected to know exactly where they are at any given time. Close attention must be paid in order to avoid getting lost. Preliminary report from Dr. Shaw. The remainder of -3 live in rural areas and are tasked with monitoring and maintaining SCP-303's climate and biosphere, as well as attending to supplemental agriculture, mining, and materials production. The organization and architecture of any rural community is tailored to the primary occupation of the community in question. Living condition. -3's young are raised communally in groups of 100 to 300 by health and education specialists. Members of -3 are first implanted with an instance of -1 between 15 and 18 months of age, depending on size and health. Additionally, instances of -1 are allowed to parasitize -3 as they grow until the age of 17, at which point each member hosts roughly 1 instance per 3 kilograms of body weight. Past this point, additional -1 are added only to replace dead instances. This weird parasite threesome that they have is just like so icky. It's just like it makes me so uncomfortable. Doesn't have all I can figure out are like fucking bot flies, man. Like how they just like implant the larva into you. Ugh. Regular medical intervention is necessary to mitigate the adverse effects associated with this degree of parasitism. Commentary. Early today, I tripped over a cable while observing some factory workers. Shortly thereafter, 2 nearby -3 members began to escort me to the nearest medical facility. Initially, they were confused by my unwillingness to join them, but were eventually convinced that I did not need assistance, and explained the reasoning behind their actions. Apparently, inattentiveness, fatigue, and stress are symptoms of a disease normally resulting from excess Mars infestation. only unusual behavior on my part and on the part of all other Foundation personnel has been surreptitiously uploaded to a database tracking our health and activities. Tripping over the wire was apparently enough for me to be flagged. I hadn't even noticed that I was being watched. Field notes of Dr. Henan off. Oh, Jesus. Again, going from American Arcadia yesterday to this, the idea of being watched and you don't know it is like, yeah. Each member of Dash 3 beginning in childhood is regularly subject to a variety of evaluations of its mental and physical capabilities and talents. This information is used to generate assignments regarding occupations, formal education, living space, and health needs. Adults spend an average of 10 hours per day performing the occupations, with the remainder spent performing self-maintenance, resting, eating, exercising, etc. Receiving education on a variety of topics and partaking in several forms of entertainment. This entertainment revolves almost exclusively around exposure to Dash-1 related stimuli. Common forms include touching the lumps produced by the parasitism, either on one's own body or on that of another. Ew, disgusting, weird. Listening to audio recordings of Dash-1's forms, full body enclosure garments that simulate Dash-1's surface texture, or visits to Dash-1's enclosures. Commentary. Wearing prosthetic Mars lumps is somewhat of a mixed blessing, but the red bandana and directive from the ruling committee are enough to prevent members of Dash 3 from hauling me in for organ harvesting on the spot. The prostheses have drastically mitigated the undercurrent of hostility and casual disrespect that is reserved for individuals that don't host Dash 1. On the downside, several times per day I am casually rubbed up against by someone who, for lack of anything better to do, is entertaining themselves with the sensation of the lumps against mine. I understand that saying we wanted to experience this is our excuse for getting the prosthesis in the first place, but the physical sensation itself is disturbing to say the least. I should look into getting some equivalent of a try again later sign. Field notes of Dr. Marino. So, there's so much commentary here, man. Social organization. Most decisions regarding the maintenance of SB-303, the lives of its population, and the day-to-day operation of Dash 3 are handled by computer programs designed for the task. Human interaction is mostly limited to the design and maintenance of these programs, as well as generation of data inputs for them. Dash 3's political system is thus similar to any practice on Earth, past or present. Dash 3's ruling committee is tasked primarily with collecting, reading, and analyzing various reports in order to identify potential planet-wide initiatives in situations for which the aforementioned programs cannot properly account. The findings are broadcast to the populace in general, which complies with its own accord. Direct interaction between members of Dash 3 typically occurs in the context of their occupation and is used almost exclusively for the purpose of coordinating activities or sharing useful information. This can be exploited for purpose of containment, as all of the human interaction has occurred with other members of Dash 3. Members will generally be unfamiliar with the concept of deception, as it serves no purpose in Dash 3, and are thus unlikely to independently verify any information given to them. However, testing has shown that subjects are perfectly capable of understanding deception once introduced to the idea. This is a big... Despite a good deal of observation and much probing on my part, we still don't know how sexual activity or procreation occurs among Dash 3. They refuse to talk about it or even allude to it. I see nothing that resembles pregnancies, which probably means that they're used in vitro fertilization, but I have no idea what they could possibly be so intent on hiding from us. Field notes from Dr. Sha! Members of Dash 3, I think it's kind of funny to give it like the Silk Song soundbite, because it's Silk Song and Hollow Knight are bugs, and now we'll have like and the parasites as well there, so Just a little like reference to that game. Members of the -3 make terrible conversation partners more than anything. This is responsible for the generally declined mental state of my research team. The lack of emotional and conceptual depth among the populace, along with how they overreact the emotions they do have, gives the impression of talking to overgrown, highly illiterate children. The purely utilitarian value of the communication makes it uncommon for them to pay attention for longer than 2 statements, as they expect to assume they're working for you to get the rest of the information from somewhere else. They're generally confused by pleasantries. On one occasion, after I spent too long attempting to make small talk, I was taken for an examination to see if I had a stroke. Unlike every other society I've encountered or read about in my career, any kind of personal connection between our society and -3 seems impossible. I haven't even found a way to efficiently convey the concept of friendship to -3, and naturally they have no interest in common with us. Sure, they're not drones, but they're hardly mad with the individuality. It's just different ways of loving Mars. The one I sleep next to draws a Mars on the bedpost whenever one of theirs dies. Doctor down the hall cuts the Mars sacks out of the left over dead bodies and keeps them. One time I met an architect who writes fictionalized accounts of individual Mars living in the wild. I once saw 2 farmers competing to see who could memorize the longest section of Mars genetic code. It's almost as if, like, you know, the brain of the insect has infected not only the body but also how they behave. Insects don't think about friendship. Insects don't think about small talk. And since there's a whole swarm of them, all they can think about is themselves. And the parasite, probably. And they've built their whole identities around this crap. Coming back to this after a good night's sleep, the above section is more symptomatic of frustration and culture shock than recent observation, though in broad strokes it remains true. It would be easier to stay grounded if I could maintain regular contact with Earth. Future observation should be limited to 2-week shifts, and or visiting Earth humans must be stationed in some city. This situation is intolerable. Personal notes of Dr. Hernandez. And then we have defiance. Defiance from social standards is very uncommon in -3, with most documented instances attributable to previously unidentified neurodivergence or incomplete infection by -2. Defiant members of the population are typically restrained by other member subjects and brought to the nearest appropriate facility for evaluation. Potential redacted. Commentary redacted. Apart from the treatment of defiant and permanently disabled members, -3 lacks any significant violent behavior. Members attribute to this to the presence of -1s inside their bodies, as well as the presumed contribution to -3 as a whole. Dissuading other members from bringing harm to them or ascribing social status to them. -3 state intended of providing for all physical needs of every member is also a result of this logic. And access to resources is similarly revoked in cases where a member can no longer provide for -3. Commentary. In cases where illnesses, old age, or defiance renders someone unable to contribute their share to society, the body tissues are collected and used for transplants. They can grow organs in a lab, but this is more efficient. A portion are reserved for medical experimentation. You'll understand the general character of these experiments if you're familiar with what Earth scientists have done to those who they do not value. The fact that one will inevitably die in unbearable pain from organ harvesting is apparently common knowledge in -3, as is the fact that doing so reduces strain on tissue growing facilities by 27.8%. Field notes of Dr. Boone. And we have more. Access document 303 NRK clearance 4/3003 required. Various proposals for the neutralization of the threat posed by 303 are being considered. Until one or more of these proposals become practicable, practicable. Containment of SCP-303 consists primarily of maintaining stable diplomatic relations with the -3 and delaying military action as long as possible. To the effect of -2, -3 has exhibited interest in using Earth and its population as a platform to spread -1. It is presumed that this would entail the application of changes already performed by SCP-303, as well as the use of anomalies in an effort to spread -1. Given -3's superior population technologies and ability to coordinate military confrontation between -3 and other nations on Earth would inevitably result in a victory for -3. By a 10-3 decision, the O5 Council has approved to the neutralization of the threat posed by SCP-303. Several strategies for this have been outlined in Appendix NRK-1. Most require the concurrent destruction of -4, prevent evacuation to Earth, or the spread of the chosen method of destruction to Earth. -3's ruling committee estimates that within 30 years it will be capable of traveling to and terraforming planets in the habitable zones of other stars. Should this occur, elimination to the threat posed by 303 will be impracticable. And now we have another addendum. Show addendum. Addendum, except from a preliminary report filed by Dr. Shah, documenting a typical behavior in a member of -3. Half an hour ago, I was alone in an elevator with a member of -3. Not too long after the door closed, it pulled the panel off of the wall and yanked at some cords. The elevator stopped. Then we had a conversation, which I happened to record. What are you doing? I wanted some alone time. I didn't want to make a scene. What are you? You catch on quick. I'm someone with a knack for adapting to new situations. In your case, I saw ways of thinking and speaking that aren't found on my planet, and I made them mine. 500 years ago, I saw two-legged species with limitless potential, and I made it mine. Oh, I think I get it. Don't tell me you saw a microbe that formed active neural networks and didn't think that maybe it had its own thoughts. Maybe if you'd given us some sign you were in there, we have some of you back on Earth. One of them should talk to our scientists. Those are more ideal. I don't need that much of your time. There's an idea I want to pitch to you. A literal elevator pitch. Alright, let's hear it. Give up. Excuse me? Your resistance. The people here make no secret about wanting to make your planet theirs. I can't tell you you're not so keen on it. And don't tell me you can't submit to me. I don't believe for a second that your planet is magically immune to me and uninhabitable to the beetles. Suppose you're correct about that. Why should we submit to you? Given the values of your society, I have a lot to offer you. Are you tired of war and conflict? I can give you all a single purpose and free you from the temptation to stray from it. You value human life and its ethical treatment, right? You already know there's no violence, no hate, no deception here. Because I give everyone value. Do you want luxury? These people are ecstatic to serve me and experience me. Scarcity, not an issue for them. I've seen what they do to the deviants, the old and the sickly. I know what they did to the other peoples that lived on this planet. I know what they did to their babies until they learned they had to wait a year. If those are sticking points, I can change. I'm nothing if not flexible. I doubt you would be so flexible about turning us into tools to make more of you fucking beetles. I think I'm allowed a sticking point too. I'm offering this to solve all of the problems plaguing your world. Why do you have to stop me? Do you even know? Right now, you have a choice. Let me in, or don't. In 30 years, you won't have that choice anymore. It can be easy on you. You can never be finished. No matter how far you reach is, no matter what you've accomplished, no matter how many moths you have, you keep going. Whenever you hit a stumbling block, you find a way around it. Murder if you have to. That can't happen. Everything has to have an end. You want to talk about endings? The whole point is to escape the end. That's where we are, deep down. Different ways of staving it off. You want to know what the real difference between us is? What is it? You try to protect yourself from the end, to make peace with it, to distract yourself from it. But it comes one way or another. Me, on the other hand, I make sure that there is nothing that comes after me. That there's nothing left to make me stop. I am the end. I am the night! Right then, an elevator technician managed to open the door, and the thing I was talking to left. I couldn't find it again. Well, good luck, Foundation. Good luck trying to fight a whole army of people, like a whole planet army of people. So that was the plan, back to the planet where I'm originally from. Can you tell your brothers and sisters not to invade Earth in 30 years? I'll be highly appreciated. Don't really want to go through an invasion. I'm really feeling it. Whew. That one's was that a little bit shorter than the other ones? Maybe. Yeah, it was a little bit. The shortest one so far. According to this SCP is a metaphor for capitalism, as you can you deduce by the using the on fans of capitalism. Yeah. You just remind me of the one Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse quote when like a black hole starts opening up in the city, and somebody like it's like, what is that? And then Spider-Punk looks at it, it's like, it's a metaphor for capitalism. Oh man. Oh man. Okay, let me just quickly check all what's going on with my friend who was in the hospital, and then we continue, shall we?